Hey, would you have a moment to answer a couple questions?
I don't.
Well, did you get my emails and calls? I've emailed you and called you a couple of times.
We have no comment.
Actually, I've actually emailed you and called you multiple times, hoping to get an interview regarding reports and the handling of reports when it comes to child abuse, neglect, but also the communication with the MDT. Is that something that we could do an interview on?
Yeah, we have no comment at this time.
Would you be willing to set up an interview?
No, not at this time.
Growing concerns tonight about the Department of Social Services in Nelson County. Multiple agencies say DSS has failed to communicate properly in sensitive cases involving abuse and neglect.
ABC 13's Alexia Stambridge investigates claims that these breakdowns could be putting kids in danger.
The sheriff, Commonwealth's attorney, and medical experts say this is an issue that's escalated over time. And now they say something needs to change before more children get hurt.
There was just silence from the DSS officials.
As those concerns started to affect investigations on cases.
Nelson County Sheriff Mark Embry and Commonwealth's attorney Daniel Rutherford both say their relationship with DSS is on the decline.
How important is the communication between your office and their office?
Well, it's vital.
Rutherford says he's concerned about how the department has handled reports of abuse and neglect.
We want to make sure that children are protected and that people just don't shake their shoulders and go, oh, well, it's how it's always been.
They are not alone. University of Virginia medical experts and the Foothills Child Advocacy Center CEO all sent letters with their concerns to the Nelson County Board of Supervisors. They say there have been multiple cases that DSS declined to investigate.
There is a host of issues and a host of times where complete inability to understand the gravity of a situation or a case.
In a letter to DSS, the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office expressed their dissatisfaction on the handling of a few recent cases, like the death of a 6-week-old baby in December. The Sheriff's Office charged both parents with murder just a couple of weeks ago. The Sheriff says he has concerns about this happening in other cases.
We're talking about serious felonious abuse here, egregious acts towards children.
The governor's Children's Ombudsman director says he's also finishing up an investigation into the actions of the Nelson County DSS director. This is Alexia with ABC 13. I reached out to DSS director Brad Berdett by phone, email, and in person, asking for an interview or comment. He told me over the phone, collaborating is important to his office.
What do you want done?
I want daily communication. I want weekly communication.
The Nelson County Board of Supervisors also sent this letter to the DSS board, asking the department to be put on an improvement plan. We'll keep you updated as this story continues to develop. Reporting in Nelson County, Alexia Stambridge, ABC 13 News.
Concerns are growing over children's safety in Nelson County. Doctors, investigators, and the Nelson County Commonwealth's attorney are claiming the Nelson County Department of Social Services is mishandling sensitive cases involving child abuse and neglect. We've been following this story for several months now. ABC 13's Alexia Stambridge investigates these recent concerns and takes our questions directly to DSS for answers.
Red flags ignored, communication lapses, and children slipping through the cracks. That's why many agencies say they're asking for change and accountability.
We are aware that children have been in unsafe situations because of the lack of communication.
These aren't technical issues. These are complete failures in doing their mandatory jobs.
The Commonwealth Attorney's Office sent this letter to DSS in March expressing their dissatisfaction on the handling of a few recent cases. One involving the death of a 6-week-old baby in December. The Sheriff's Office charged both parents with murder in May. And another involving the strangling of 2 teens in February.
We're talking about serious felonious abuse here, egregious acts towards children.
Now I've learned the Virginia Children's Ombudsman is currently investigating the Nelson County DSS. The Ombudsman is an independent agency within the governor's office that is appointed to protect children. So far in his investigations, he has found more than a dozen concerns, from response times and improper child safety assessments to a lack of documentation and communication.
That is rare.
Check out these numbers from the Virginia CPS annual report. In 2024, of 161 cases referred to Nelson County DSS, they accepted under 30% of them to review. 0 of the cases became investigations.
It goes to our concern that they're not assessing the safety and the risk factors and making those determinations according to policy, according to law, and according to common sense, to be honest with you.
Did you have concerns? I took these numbers to Edith Napier Wardlaw, the Nelson County DSS board chair. What's your reaction to those numbers?
Look at areas comparable to the size of Nelson County. You know what I'm saying? If you throw in really large cities, if you throw in the Richmond, the Northern Virginia, they probably are going to have a higher rate.
Will that percentage change of what's investigated versus referred and versus accepted?
It could be due to the environment that they're living in. Could. I won't say it will.
I compared Nelson County's numbers with some of its neighbors. In 2024, Amherst County DSS had 704 cases referred. They accepted about 65% of them to review. 151 of the cases became investigations. Appomattox County DSS had 328 cases referred. They accepted about 42% of them to review. 16 of the cases became investigations. When you are looking at these numbers, I asked why there's a noticeable gap between Nelson and the other counties.
Social services is about the safety of children and adults, but it's also about trying to keep families together.
The Nelson County Sheriff's Office, Commonwealth Attorney's Office, medical professionals, and Department of Social Services are all part of a multidisciplinary team. The MDT works together to properly handle child abuse and neglect cases.
It just really allows those teams to collaborate as opposed to kind of working in silo.
Many experts I spoke with say right now the issue stems from a lack of communication with the Nelson County DSS director, resulting in varying problems. Hi, Mr. Berdett. I reached out to the director, Brad Berdett, multiple times, calling, emailing, and getting no response for weeks. So I stopped him at the Nelson County Courthouse. Would you have a moment to answer a couple questions?
I don't.
Would you be willing to set up an interview?
Not at this time.
Did you get my emails and calls?
I did get your emails. At this time, we just have no comment.
I followed up anyway, asking about the MDT's complaints. Do you think that you've communicated well with them?
Yes, we have communicated with the MDT and communicated very well.
Is there something you could do better? Because these agencies don't feel like you've communicated well.
I think there's a lot of things a lot of agencies could do better. So
they say, for instance, like you haven't, whenever you communicate with them, right? It's days later, and sometimes there is no communication. I mean, could there be some improvements within communication?
Everybody's assessment, and I thank you for talking to me today, Ms. Stansbridge. It was nice talking with you.
The Nelson County Board of Supervisors also requested the department be put on an improvement plan. The DSS chair says it's a personnel matter, so she can't confirm or give any details. But she did say they are working to improve communication with other agencies moving forward. How important is it that you guys have good communication amongst everyone in the MDT?
It's vital. It's absolutely vital, and we need to be able to pick up a phone and talk to any one person on that MDT in the moment, because these cases present themselves at all hours and at any time, and if we can't access the services that each individual agency has to offer, ultimately it's that child and their family that's going to suffer for that.
Is that usually what you are experiencing, that you can pick up the phone and talk to anyone in the MDT?
Yes.
And right now, or over the past year specifically, is that right? That it hasn't been over the past year, or when did this kind of begin, I guess?
From my perspective, it's been a little over a year, yes.
Okay, so in a little over a year, that's not the case when it comes to the Nelson County DSS.
So we've had some increasing concerns with Nelson DSS. We've had instances where medical providers have called in reports of concern, and those reports have been what we call screened out and not investigated, which is concerning. And we've also had instances where DSS is not communicating with the rest of the MDT, which then limits what we're able to offer to a family or a child that's experiencing this, because they have access to resources that no one else does.
What are you seeing when it comes to issues with Nelson County DSS?
I think the biggest concern is communication. And we have a lot of respect and for everybody at the MDT. We are all professionals. We all work very closely together. This is not easy work. This is really heavy. And so we do give each other the benefit of the doubt. But when we consistently have the same issues and it's affecting our patients and their families, then that is an issue. If you are not coming to case review meetings, if you're not responding to emails, if you're not answering the phone, if you are, when you do respond, we're getting very vague and generalized responses with no real information, it's really hard to look at what we can do for a child and how we can ensure the best outcomes for that family without the information that only they can provide.
So are those some of the things that have been happening? The meetings, not responding to emails, phone calls. Is there anything else?
Not opening investigations when we've called in reports of concern. The concern was what's going on, why aren't investigations being looked at? And so I did go and I looked at the numbers on the state board, and I don't know the specific numbers, and so you'd have to look at those. But the numbers are off, especially when you compare to the statewide numbers and the national averages. And I don't know why that is. And nobody's communicating. We'd love to have that conversation and kind of work out these issues, but if you're not communicating with us, that's hard to do that.
We begin tonight at 7 with breaking news. The Nelson County Board of Supervisors has dissolved the Department of Social Services Board effective immediately. And this all comes just one day after ABC 13's Alexia Stanbridge's investigation into that DSS aired. Alexia is now live in studio with what she just learned moments ago. Alexia.
And Noreen, they dissolved the Department of Social Services Board today during a DSS board meeting. That's according to the Nelson County Board of Supervisors. Now, the decision, like you said, comes after our investigation into the issues surrounding the Department of Social Services. Many agencies, including the Nelson County Commonwealth Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, medical professionals, and the Virginia Children's Ombudsman tell us the Nelson County DSS director has failed to effectively communicate and handle multiple child abuse and neglect cases. The Board of Supervisors has not released the reason for their decision yet. And the Nelson County Sheriff's Office also posted to Facebook today in regard to our coverage. They said in part, although I can't comment on specifics, the concerns raised by the report by numerous officials do reflect significant challenges. And he also says, I'm deeply concerned about the safety of children throughout Nelson County whose needs must receive the attention they deserve. Now, you can view our full investigation by going to WSET.com and searching Nelson County DSS.
Tonight, the Nelson County Department of Social Services director has resigned. This comes less than a day after the county's Board of Supervisors voted to dissolve the DSS board.
And it was only 2 days after our ABC 13 investigation into their handling of child abuse and neglect reports. ABC 13's Alexia Stanbridge breaks down what all of this means for the county.
Some major changes for the Department of Social Services here in Nelson County after multiple agencies spoke out on issues they say could put children's lives in danger.
Just absolute disregard for certain matters and certain cases that were very serious, and it was on the leadership for that.
Less than a day after our investigation into issues tied to the handling of child abuse and neglect cases, the Nelson County Board of Supervisors dissolved the DSS board.
I think the totality of the circumstances just came to a point that the board rendered a decision.
I reached out to the former DSS board chair, Edith Napier-Wardlaw, for an interview. She sent me this statement saying, the Board of Supervisors exercised their power and dissolved the DSS board. However, I sincerely hope they allow the independent investigation to be completed so the citizens of Nelson can see the facts for themselves.
At this time, we just have no comment.
Just a day after that decision, DSS Director Brad Berdett announced his resignation. Both the sheriff and Commonwealth's attorney say, regardless of changes, they'll continue to do the best they can. Does anything change for your office?
I mean, I hope it does. I hope that the personnel, now again, I want to make sure everyone knows there are a vast majority of the workers there at DSS are phenomenal people. It was a leadership issue. It was a lack of leadership, a lack of guidance. And so I'm hoping with this change that it would bring about strong, effective leadership.
We fully expect what we did yesterday, we will still be able to do today, and still be able to provide those services and work and build that communication.
I also reached out to all of the members on the Board of Supervisors requesting an interview. Only a couple have responded, saying they may be willing to set something up in the near future. We'll keep you updated. Reporting in Nelson County, Alexia Stanbridge, ABC 13 News.
Just to underscore the concerns with Nelson County's DSS, take a look at these numbers from the Virginia CPS annual report. In 2024, of 161 cases referred to Nelson County DSS, they accepted less than 30% of them to review. There were no cases resulting in investigations.
And just in the last few hours, Nelson County staff have released a statement on this situation. In it, they say Allison McGarry, the DSS Administrative Services Manager, will be the department's interim director while they find a permanent replacement. The county is immediately implementing child and adult protective hotlines, and the county administrator says they want the public to know their doors are open.
These aren't technical issues. These are complete failures in doing their mandatory jobs.
And that's a message from the Nelson County Commonwealth's attorney. Earlier this month, he expressed those concerns about how the local Department of Social Service was handling child abuse and neglect cases.
Multiple agencies spoke out, which led to an ABC 13 investigation. Soon after our report last week, the DSS board dissolved and the director stepped down. Now improvement efforts are getting underway.
ABC 13's Alexia Stanbridge spoke to county leaders about their decision and the progress they've made so far.
The Nelson County Administrator took control after these changes. I'm told she has already appointed an interim DSS director as they work to fill the spot permanently. David Parr, who represents the West District on the Board of Supervisors, was among those who voted to dissolve the DSS board, which was run by volunteers. He says Director Brad Berdett resigned less than 30 minutes after an email went out informing everyone of the changes. Why did the Nelson County Board of Supervisors decide to dissolve the DSS board?
Well, short answer is to streamline the management of implementation of a performance improvement plan for the Director of Social Services.
Parr says the DSS board had been working to address procedural and communication problems with community partners. But despite implementing 2 improvement plans with the director, they did not see necessary changes. He wants everyone to know DSS is open and operating. Moving forward, the goal is to provide not only resources, but also effective leadership. The county administrator has already implemented a telephone hotline to help with intake.